This is Mike Bowen for Cube Geek, so I thought I'd record a video and answer some questions that have been posed to me for a webinar that I'm going to be doing next week. So this is my little practice giving answers to specific questions, and I'm answering them as they apply to us at Full 360, us data guys in the cloud. So the first question is, what percentage of enterprise workloads will be migrated to the public cloud? I think there's a highly likely scenario where a large number of mobile and web apps will be migrated to public clouds, even though they may currently exist in co-locations for enterprise. And I'm generally talking about the Fortune 500 as I answer these questions, and I'm talking about their traditional IT. I think there's a couple of reasons. First of all, the systems that I think will not move will be the old Solomon accounting on AS400, for example. I see a lot of that in manufacturing, and there's not a whole lot of data to move, and sometimes they have possession of those fully depreciated hardware, and it doesn't cost them much to keep those going, and there's not a lot of data to move, so there's not a great advantage of doing that. And also, when you're integrating those kinds of old school applications with things to connect them to mobile users and web users, you're generally buying those from third-party software vendors, and you'd have to coordinate a lot more in order to make those work in the cloud, because those vendors are kind of waiting for the companies, and the companies are kind of waiting for the vendors, and they're not using their own developers to build their own stuff. I'd also say that some very compute-intensive jobs where you have sharp engineers on staff, some of those have already migrated to private clouds. So things like that you see in IBM's SoftLayer and OpenStack, and those companies that have already done a lot of their own virtualization, those would move, those would possibly move, but I think those decisions have already been made on those critical decisions. But when you look at the overall size of the market as it expands and the new kinds of applications that are coming online, especially what's called digital, all of that has to go because it's just not economical, and it's very difficult to build content delivery networks if your ordinary IT organization is just not hiring those people. And the new developers, the full stack developers, those that have evolved from the LAMP stack developers, they're going to want to work in the cloud because the cloud APIs give them the ability to control more of their apps. And the Agile and DevOps stuff all works towards going to the cloud, and the public cloud in particular, and Amazon is the market leader there. Question number 2. Has there been an issue or pause in the migration of public cloud services, of applications to public? I say there has been a trickle, and we've been fortunate to get some of those trickles. What I haven't seen in the mainstream, but I'm just beginning to see now, even though I've been in this for 5 years, is where you have a company that says we are going to use a multi-phase, multi-year plan, and we're going to migrate everything out of our data center, application by application. We're going to do our rationalization, find out where we get the bang for the buck, find out which are hard, which we think will be difficult, and evolve our process. That, I think, is just beginning now, and people are ready to do that because they've already made the simple decision on the high level, which is we've decided we don't want to be maintaining a data center. So they've already come up with an economic equation that allows them to make the big commitment. But I think a lot of Fortune 500 companies have not done that. They're still locked into contracts. They can't think about how they're going to do it halfway. They're waiting to hear something from the big commercial vendors. They think that hybrid can do something, but they're not quite sure which part of the hybrid needs to move and which part needs to stay. And there's a lot of confusion in that area, and the tough decisions haven't been made. So I don't see any one particular area that is making the issue or the pause, except for one, which is talent. And I think people are waiting to grow the talent or casting about for the talent for people who have had experience delivering projects in traditional IT, and traditional
it's 3 o'clock
in the new cloud stuff. Question number 3. AWS versus Azure versus Google. Well, as I've indicated in the graphic above, AWS is above and beyond, and they've been a leader and delivering new products and services consistently for years. And I remember when I first started looking at HTable and what came, Hadoop coming out of that, things like Orchid, things like Google Wave, things like Google Apps, Google Docs. I really thought they were going to make a big move for corporate clients, but it all seemed to be stuff that the Google people were doing on a part-time basis, as they were famous for doing, and they never really engaged the enterprise software space. And so they built all these cool little things, but the Google OS really never happened. And companies like Slack have taken advantage of the failure of Google Wave, and now they're a big deal. So I don't understand why Google has not done that, gone whole hog after enterprise. Obviously, being a leader in placement services and AdWords and that kind of thing, there's plenty of money in that for them, so they haven't really had to. And I don't think they necessarily wanted to compete with the likes of PeopleSoft, Oracle, Siebel, SAP. So I think that Microsoft and Google can and will displace front office applications, and Microsoft, by saying they're going to put SQL Server on Linux, is taking a big step in the right direction, but they're 3 years behind Amazon. So there's enough room for everybody to grow, but I think the maturity that in Amazon's APIs are going to keep them a market leader in multiple different ways. So displacement only perhaps for lift and shift of applications where companies say, well, we're going to do our Microsoft stuff in Azure, we're going to do some of our social media in Google, and the rest we're going to do in Amazon. If there's strategies that come out like that, then that's possible. But we don't, our organization, we're strictly Amazon, and we think Amazon will keep the lead. I also would say that when we talk about beyond lift and shift, we want to take advantage of the APIs. We talk about horizontal scaling and infrastructure as code that keeps Amazon ahead of the service code, of the service curve. And then we're mixing open source with proprietary stuff. That's just the better place to be as far as we're concerned. Azure we didn't consider. We were invested in getting a few select database application platforms running in the cloud, but other than that we were not invested in .NET in any way. So there was no need for that. Pricing trends for core services, question number 4. How rapidly are prices declining? In Amazon, I say they're declining in 3 ways. And the first way is literally, Bezos has said, people always ask me what's happening in the future, and all I can say for sure is nobody wants to pay more over the long term. So Amazon does price reductions all the time. So they have mature products where they're reducing prices, whereas other providers don't even have those products yet. So that's one place. The second is TCO. You're really going to get a lot more programmer productivity when programmers, developers can pick their own language and talk to the API, and those APIs mature. So building applications and gluing applications together in the Amazon cloud decreases your overall cost in the long term and the cost of your ownership. And the third is that Amazon quickly, rapidly not only integrates new products, but new hardware technology. SSD was a big new thing for a lot of folks, and we've been able to migrate every application over to SSD-based processors, where I know that some regular data centers are still thinking about whether they should or could do that. So the Moore's Law is extended, and that's lowering costs as well. Number 5, do you believe that you've effectively mitigated your risk by adopting AWS services? I would say that our risks are business risks rather than system risks. Our system risks are significantly mitigated by Amazon, by working with them, because number one, their security is clean and it's simple, and there are no excuses for not having complete control. The idea of infrastructure as code works wonders when something goes wrong and nobody really knows who wrote the code for your timeouts on your routers 3 years ago when you adopted it as a company standard. You can just read the infrastructure as code and see what's going on. The risk of using outdated technology is mitigated by Amazon. Like I said, our risk is business risk, which is we say we're going to go whole hog with Amazon. We're not going to entertain a whole lot of hybrid discussions, and we're not going to build our next generation applications on premise. So as long as Amazon keeps innovating, and as long as they have a specific enterprise corporate focus, which they have done last year, and they're moving forward even faster this year, then we think our risk is mitigated all around. But it is primarily saying we are an integrated service provider with a big data competency, and we work strictly with AWS. Just that profile has certain risk, but that risk is going down in terms of business attractiveness. So those are the 5 questions and my answers. This is Michael David Cobb Bowen for CubeGeek. Thanks.